So there'll be obviously some stuff that I'll talk to. Happy at the end to take questions on this or anything else pathway related. So probably don't get much of a chance to speak to states in general. So we take the opportunity when I can. So if you've got anything burning you want to know, please let me know. So I said it's basically an international perspective from the under 23 team point of view that I'll talk to. I'll give some example around some junior school type stuff as well. Talk a little bit about the aim, what the coach's role looks like, and some examples of it. Probably the biggest thing that we got to, first World Champs we had 2022 was post-COVID. Hadn't been to World Champs for a few years. Basically got towed up pretty badly from an underage point of view. Went away and reset the whole system, the whole structure around how we train. We've got our posters now that we've put together in that time as well. So technical model, etc. A big part of it was our international preparation. And importantly, the training plan leading into the Worlds. That was basically given to every coach brought into that. So we had really good engagement across the network. I'm not saying it's all the training program, but within 12 months, we've gone from 2 crews out of 15 make an A final in 2022 to basically the worst placing in 2023. 12 months later was 4th. I walked away going, that's a bit disappointing. You're not going to medal. You think, okay, 4th place across 15 crews is a pretty cool outcome. So part of it is what we did in this space as well, just to give you some context that it has worked really well. So the taper, as you probably already know, it's the training phase immediately leading up to our major competition. We have one major taper in the year. It's characterised by a reduced amount of training. So it's training load versus training intensity that we look at that balance through that period. We want to reduce the fatigue induced by intense training and optimise obviously athletic performance. The challenge with that is programming in volume, duration, intensity, number of sessions, and having that vary for different crews, males, females, etc. becomes part of the challenge. I'll speak to a little bit in a moment as well. The taper, you're never adding fitness at that point in time. So all the lead-up work obviously builds your preparation for a good taper. So a good taper won't supersede preparation. So probably the first point to know about a taper is it's basically a 12-month process, i.e. you've got to have a good, consistent training plan in place to enable how much you can taper and how effective that is. So you're taking things away. How much are you taking away each session and how long that lasts is the overarching question. Leading on from that, you're not trying to build fitness during the taper. This is all done prior, so you're not trying to make up work. And that's probably a big challenge for the coaches as well. As you start to do less, the athletes want to do more, but also the coach needs to get themselves occupied in some respects as well. So knowing that there's other avenues for you to keep occupied, I guess, when you're looking at an international campaign or even locally, you can be your own worst enemy. You go, let's just go for a paddle. Water's good, whatever else, especially in Brasi in Italy. 9 times out of 10, it's a pretty cool place to row, so they just want to go out and row. And removing that is sometimes a challenge. So it takes a bit of courage and a bit of foresight to where you're going to keep on task. So remember, the main aim is to dissipate as much fatigue, so that's neural and peripheral fatigue, as possible, without sacrificing any racing fitness. Neural fatigue is an interesting one, especially in the faster boats, especially the quad, which I've done quite a bit of work with over time. Athletes will typically express they can't move fast enough. If it's such a fast boat, you've got to actually be able to get the nerves firing at the right rate. And so sometimes it takes, again, a bit of courage to remove some sessions earlier on, just to make sure they can train properly to get to this point. And people have asked me what's the most stressful part about, I guess, my job internationally is the regatta. No, it's this lead into the taper and the taper itself, because it's a pretty fine line you're treading, and there's been a number of times where I've walked down to the boat shed and, okay, we're going to turn and go back home, but you see you're not ready to put in today, because you're not adapted neurally yet to the load. So peripheral fatigue is just normal fatigue. Neural fatigue is something that sometimes we overlook. So that's that feeling you just can't move quick enough. Athletes will decrease in fitness traits during the taper, but it's much stronger likelihood that your crew will perform at their maximal capability if you're at 97% fitness rather than being at 100% fitness and being fatigued. So the bottom line is expect, and a regatta is terrible in terms of how you detrain. So you detrain a lot at a selection regatta, a national champs, etc. So detraining is part of what happens. That's much better to be fresh. Keep training through is going to be the answer. It's not. Good taper should not stretch fatigue across days. So what we mean by that is fatigue from one day should not affect the quality of the next day's session. It's not a training cycle per se. I'll show you some examples of what that looks like. So basically it becomes some hard work interspersed with light. So it becomes really polarised in terms of what happens. It's either really hard or really light. And you've got to make sure the light is light as well. I'll explain that in a moment. We typically begin 4 weeks out from your major race. So if we're talking about our underage crews, that's the A final. So we've got to the point where our goal is to get everyone into the A final and then perform on that day. Some crews it might be semi-final, then to actually perform semi-final day to make the final. So it's a count back from your major competition. Generally look at a 50% decrease in the first week of training, trying to get as much fatigue out as possible. The challenge with that is the athletes will feel much worse before they feel better. And so they really start to question, if they're not familiar with a really good taper, what's happening. So it's that super compensation where you go into a deeper hole because the body starts to recover and go, oh, I like this. But it likes it by shutting down certain systems, but then you jump out at a much higher rate. So just having the confidence that that is actually part of the process is critical as well. Then we looked at about a 20% decrease second week, 30 in the third, and 40 in the final week. But that depends on racing as well. So depending on your racing load as to how that balances out. Taper weeks can be constructed as you see fit, but as our national underage team, I then basically dictate our team workouts and everyone has to follow those as a minimum. There's a little bit of flexibility around the training plan as they go through, but the team workouts are team workouts and we do that as a team. The beauty is because we've been following the same training program all the way through a 6-month period, we get a really good comparison of the team. So we do a speed order at trials, and then do racing blocks throughout the preparation period, and then when we get into our taper period, we've got a really good reference as to where everyone's sitting. And sometimes it's hard to judge if everyone's similar, going, are we all not very good, or are we all really good? We get to the point now we're all really good, so that was positive. But that's mandated that we do the same team workouts. So it gives us evaluation of crew performances. There's that value in the training program, and it also assists in our planning and restructuring for our remaining time. So we can judge, are we on track? Do we need to pull more out? The hard part is layering more stuff in, because then you start to walk the balance of getting fatigue again and timing. But it's probably more about, do we pull more stuff out more than anything is the balancing act there. And then what we're talking here in week 3, so this is basically our last week leading the Worlds, because not every crew races at the same point in time. We're really structured around what happens that last week in terms of timing leading in. So our team sort of splits into 2 or 3 different race warm-up days depending on when they're racing. So it gets quite specific around your timing. I'll show that in a moment. This is just an overview of what our preparation period looked like. So we went back to a traditional 4-week periodisation. So the blue line is the actual plan of training. So this is obviously the end of 22, coming through. So selection would have been here. So you can see how much that dropped off in terms of volume. If you looked at the effect of training load and fitness level on the athlete, so to speak, it's about a 10% drop in here, and it takes that another 5-6 weeks to sort of get back up to a level 3 weeks out from trials. So it's a 6 to 8 week window that we lose by having nationals or trials if you don't train But then we go into a typical 4-week cycle where we have light week, build up to 3 weeks, and then it generally trends up as we go through. Each light week we did a 2K race, so we recognised we weren't doing enough racing, so every crew did 2K racing as part of that preparation period. And then you see as we come in, we then drop back off more gradually in the table. So biggest week here, 4 weeks out, and then we start to come down. A little bit of intensity would bring that volume up, so it's not just training kilometres, it's intensity mirrored with volume. We'll give that little spike there, and then into the worlds. And then what's that look like? Probably a little bit hard to read. So we've got this day here would be the Saturday of this particular crew, would be their A final. So that's the Saturday at the World Champs. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 weeks out. This was still in Australia here. So this is the last 2 weeks of our preparation in Australia. So this is the standard program that we've done. Long Ks, some work on Tuesday, some threshold the next day, which is a team workout. We're doing some HIIT work. So this one is the longer HIIT one, so 5 minutes. So 2.5 minutes on, 2.5 off. Times 8 in total. So that's a standard session we do. Then followed by a row, some other rowing. But then what we've done also is a 2K ergo test in the last week before we leave. So we've done a 1400 minute week. This is a little bit lighter, but this has just been the back end of 5 months of preparation to this point in time. 85% of the athletes PB on that ergo, with no preparation at all. No single ergo session. All the stuff here we've done has been on the water. We took ergos out about a month before, back of heavy volume. So that gives them confidence there that they're on track. And the ones that weren't were within 1 second per 5 off their PB. So that's a really good marker before we leave the country that they're on track. 4 weeks out, we do a 2K on the water. So that's, again, the end of our light week. So that really signifies the start of our taper, so to speak. The complication is we then travel this day to Sydney. So they all come into Sydney. So that's why there's an ergo there. So it was actually flipped. It was a row in the morning, an ergo in the afternoon. We then do another ergo in the morning. We're staying overnight in Sydney because then we fly out to the US first thing that morning. So that's that travel day. And that's the other complication is travel's not a good recovery mechanism. So we're now trying to recover the athletes by landing an 17-hour flight from Auckland to New York direct on the back of going from Sydney and then bumping into Princeton for our training camp. So that's complicated. So then the next day, really quite late, activation is critical. So sitting on a plane for 17 hours in one leg. So it's a long flight, that one. We want to make sure that we've got hips, everything else is mobile, backs that get starting to get a little bit more blood flow through them. So don't row that first morning. The afternoon, they've then had a chance to get some activation, some food on board, made that back in the room, then do a paddle. We try and hit them pretty hard straight away. So 18K row, day 1 on the water. So this is literally day 1 in America. You've got no idea what time zone it is. It's literally obviously flipped, 24 hours, day is night, sort of thing. That wakes the system up. Similarly, next day is a bit of a struggle. This one here basically resets the whole system. So we're now 3 days in, you're still not sleeping properly, you're still adjusting to whatever else. But a typical session that we've done is, it's not all flat out races, it's a threshold session, 2K 15,005, 250. So basically we'll start, settle onto a rate of 26 to 30. 250 would have been flat out, but they come off that going, oh my God, I'm absolutely fried. Slept really well, and then by the Monday, we started to get back in a little bit more routine. Sunday was off, paddle, and then we started to really get into what our taper looks like. So this is what I was talking before. We do hard, so 3,000 race profiles. So that means we do standing first 1,000, middle running 1,000, running last 1,000, wind the line, day off. The lighter days now are critical. So all the way through here, we're looking at boat speed targets. So hitting 80% target paddling, 90% 28. Here, boat speed, don't even look at it. That is a big killer to fatigue. So that neural fatigue will really hit you if these are done too hard. So again, this is where we've done the work already. This is about technical adaptations, and this is where you get really good gains technically, because it's starting to freshen up, it's starting to get a bit more feel for what's happening. So don't underestimate how much change you make in these really 3 weeks up to the final. So technically, they can make some really big gains. So we've had a down day, we're going to go back and do a 2K hit out, flat out. So again, line them up. They understand their boat speeds, their race warm-ups, their race plan in particular. So again, don't be afraid to go over the race distance. So we're now about 15, 16 days out from the final, but 10 days out from racing start to do a 2K flat out. Then we back off. Then we come into some real high-end stuff. So now we're doing 8 to 10 500s. We've mixed these up and do standing 5s, running 5s, wind the line 5, and it's basically 500 on, 500 off, and just keep repeating up and down the course as you need to get them done. Another lighter day, a few starts, day off basically. Another hard day, so now we've gone 1000s, 500s, now 250s. So now we're starting to get some real overspeed neural type work happening. So as they're freshening up, our intensity and our ability to work at a higher level goes up as well. So now we're doing 250s. Paddling day, that was a travel day from New York into St. Catharines in Canada. Then another familiarisation on the course in the morning, and then just a little bit of speed play, 500 and 250, again pretty prescriptive, and then we'll follow that, we'll rank and track that session as well. And then we get into our real specific preparation. So we'll then split the group up, so half the group have done 1250. That's because they will have started racing on the Monday. So this is, say, Group A, I'll do a 1250. Try and get that done at a regatta venue is pretty challenging. You ideally find a friend and line up and away you go, but you've got to be pretty brave to hold off a maniac coming at you in over an hour, or someone else that doesn't speak English. Kendall will know that very well. But standing 1250, it's supposed to be the first 1250 of your race, so it's not flat out. Again, over time, you get to learn what that feels like and how that then correlates to racing time at the end. We'll go to Group 2. Group 2 do that the next day. Group 2 then, so Group 1's doing this session, Group 2 is the next session. So the next session is a race simulation. So it's important that it's not just, that's it, we're done. We then do a prescriptive session, which we call a race simulation piece. It's a race warm-up. It's a 2K piece, basically, where you do a 250 start, and then it's basically 1500 metres in the middle at 22, and then a wind the line. So it's again thinking about where you're on the course. It's much about mental preparation as it is anything else. So then this group will then start racing here on the Tuesday, and it's a matter of just following through your race schedule. The challenge is if you have a smaller entry field on Tuesday, you make straight to the final, and you then race on, say, Saturday. You then replicate something similar. It wouldn't be 1250, it'd be 750, 3 days out, continue the racing. But that's again the challenge of trying to make sure that they're occupied, so down the course, do some paddling, but don't over-stimulate how long you're there, basically. So that's basically a set play that we run. Well, everything through here is stock standard. So it's all continuous, everyone follows that pattern. So the orange bits are non-negotiable, the other bits can be massaged as you go through. And that's basically how we prepare pulling out volume, keeping intensity low or high, depending on what's happening.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sorry. On that one where you're doing the 500 off, 500 on, whatever, around that period.
Yeah, on the water.
Yep,
Yeah.
on the water.
Yeah.
So it's the second last column.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you're talking about weight load or effort, load of work, but do you have an outcome? Have you targeted an outcome? You know within 5 seconds what you've got to do to win a race. Okay. So does that factor in to to that work, or is it just
Yeah.
work as hard as you can? I'm not going to carry a stopwatch.
No, so those ones there we target, apart from a start or a line, which would probably be 2 each end of the session, the middle ones are mid-race pace. So you paddling, get on to speed, right, now we do 500 at our mid-race pace. So that's the target that they're thinking, this is what we can hold for 2K.
So as we come back into your getting through the jet lag and whatever, so the week before, that, are you leaving your stopwatch behind on that one, or are you just targeting?
No, we record them because it's interesting over time what that looks like and how well they've adapted to the travel. So you're looking at RPE and heart rate and speed, and then understanding what that correlation looks like and how well they've adapted. So if someone's working at 10 and they're at 80% speed for a rate 28, you go, it's not that flash.
Yeah.
So we've got to adjust what they're doing. So time is still important.
So you're looking then, so that then is taking the effectiveness of the work to achieve the outcome, which is a targeted time.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So the physiology you're measuring, you mentioned heart rate. Are you also measuring lactate occasionally, or you don't need to anymore?
No.
You've got locked in.
Yeah, we have. Also, they're dehydrated. It's a hot environment. Probably not eating properly. So and even heart rate is so flaky in that situation as well. That's where the RPE is actually probably one of the better indicators.
What's RPE?
So relative perceived exertion. So you're on a rating of 1 to 10. How hard are you working?
Yep. Okay.
Because the physiology is just out of whack. Because you're dehydrated, so many things are affecting that. So.
Are you expecting, as the taper goes on, their ability to get prognostic speeds to increase linearly or exponential or up and down?
It's a hard one to say because we're expecting more boat speed anyway because we're pulling back the distances we're doing.
Yeah.
We've got a rule of thumb as to what we were expecting for each of those sessions, and obviously it goes up.
Sure.
But it's probably more exponential than linear for sure.
Yeah.
So because one, you're getting less fatigue, and two, just the nature of the session. So.
Sure.
Yeah. And it's a balance for sure. So. All right. Any?
Hold on.
Yep.
So, just to assess, if there's any crews that need to pull back more in the tape, or given like if they're really fatigued, are you using those metrics that you sort of said before, like heart rate, RP? I think it's one other.
Boat speed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's probably where my role really comes into play. So I look at boat speed big time, but also I spend a lot of time on the water with athletes and coaches and make sure that I'm leading these sessions, because one of the biggest indicators also their technical framework. So if they can't hold framework over some of these sessions, you go, this is not good. Yeah. I'll then speak to the athletes and coach off the water and then make a call as to whether to pull more out or not across the whole team. So it's a big one around, I've seen them all, I know what they're looking like, etc. And if they're not quite where I think they should be, definitely involve a conversation.
Is there a point in time, like closer to the main competition, that you're kind of more acting on that, and then periodically like, well, should be fatigued at this point?
So probably, so this time here we're patient.
Yeah.
So you just got to let it run out. It's probably here is the real danger zone, I guess.
And that's 2 weeks.
That's 2 weeks out. Yeah. By the time you're getting into here, you're sort of sink or swim. But this part here is really what makes or breaks you in some respects. So that's, have you adapted well enough? How are you recovering? And that's where it's really about pulling more stuff out than anything else. It might be able to do 2 of the thousands and not 3. Yeah. So there's a lot of massaging that happens in that space for sure. And so look, before, a lot of it's crew dependent. So a lot of the smaller, slower, heavier boats need a bit more time to recover from a peripheral sense. Some of the faster boats might just need more paddling time just to flush out the neural type fatigue. So it's a little bit horses for courses as well. So, but that's we're in the money there.
Yeah.
The psychologists having any input into this process?
We don't have a psychologist with us when we're away. Again, we try and make sure all that's done beforehand, and that's probably where I'm not psychologist at all, but I've got to make sure that I'm reinforcing the right messages and making sure that confidence is a big part of this process as well. So trusting where we're going and how it unfolds. So spend a lot of time talking with the whole team and the coaches, so we'll meet as coaches nightly around what's happening, what to expect, and then any red flags, I guess, as well. So it's about keeping coaches calm as much as possible as well. So if we look at then, so that's our international 23 taper. If we then look at that from a maybe more club school aspect, so your lead-in time in terms of your preparation is going to be different, obviously, but I think you can come back to almost a 5-day taper because they're more susceptible to detraining, because they don't have that same training base under the belt. If you extend the taper, probably they're going to be tapering most of the time rather than training. So training is still critical. I think 5 days is quite a good little window for an underage or a younger athlete. Also because they do recover quicker as well. So they don't have that same muscle mass typically that means they have more time to deload and need it for recovery. Still have a 50% decrease over the previous week, but probably decrease session duration first, and then the number of sessions would be my way to go. So still keep them on the water and in training, so don't pull sessions out totally, but reduce how long they're actually there, and then towards the end of that week period, maybe pull out a session or so, but pulling back volume is the go-to to begin with.
And I'm assuming that's not gender specific.
No. The only thing I didn't mention or show before is where we pull out, we go back to gender point, weights and threshold work. So we don't do threshold work basically 2.5 weeks out, particularly for males because it takes them longer to recover from a threshold type session. Females can get away with it a bit closer, but probably in that week for underage, like the juniors, I wouldn't be doing any threshold at all because it takes too long to recover from. It's a bit of a funny one, the threshold session. It's quite a hard one to get right because you're capped in rate and you're trying to get maximum speed, so you can't use rate to help you. You're not rating low enough, got enough time to recover. So it's that middle ground to really hard one to get right. Intensity for this group, so the maintenance of key intensity sessions helps accelerate the adaptation and recovery. We need flexibility around that for crews to own their own key sessions. So basically keep some intensity in there, but don't go overboard with that. Reducing the volume intensity too much can be detrimental, so similar to the senior program. Likewise, not reducing it enough, so that's that balance again. Probably I'd say more is more in this case. So if you're going to reduce it more, don't be conservative about it. They're going to detrain anyway, so don't be afraid for that. Bottom line, you want to make sure there's rest and recovery, so insufficient suboptimal performance, as we've spoken about, and the maintenance of intensity is important. So I guess just to summarise it all, from a junior point of view, try and maintain the number of sessions through until the last moment. So do less. So if we had in our program 3,000s, maybe you can do 2 1,000s, 4 to 5 5s, 5 to 6 250s would be an example of a session on off type scenario that you could do, and then pull out something at the back end just to really freshen them up. But typically doesn't take long for an athlete that hasn't got as much fatigue on board to flush it out, obviously. So just in summary, timing is critical, less is more. Don't train on speed, so that's that notion of when you're paddling, make sure it is light. It's a critical window for technical changes. Another one is just being mindful of the incidental intensity. So if you're staying away from the course somewhere and you're walking, etc., or they want to do some more starts, they feel really good, suddenly you've done another 100 strokes of high intensity before you know it. So just be mindful and lead the show basically around what's happening from a taper and volume intensity point of view. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm not sure you've got any more questions around that or anything else in particular. But that's how we run it, and it's pretty effective and a lot of confidence around this particular program and system.
If you think you've made a mistake going into your heavier weeks in lead up to the taper, and you can see that they're a little bit overcooked and slight niggles in back and whatever, how would that affect your taper? Because it's like that awkward 4 to 5 week out. If you pulled it back, all of a sudden you're almost going to the taper too early.
Yeah, that's the bane of my life that you're getting. You just can't quite.
Yeah.
So typically I'd extend the program a little bit and then pull more out to begin with.
Okay.
So you might want to go another couple of days longer, but then jump off the cliff pretty quick.
Yeah.
And hit them with a lot of recovery straight away. So, but that's the real.
On those days, I mean, forget about international, but if we're just talking, say, going across Perth, when the guys arrive as en masse, just giving them a chance to go for a walk, headspace type stuff, and again, it's the psychology, but headspace, relax, looking, even if you race there 1,000 times, but just get an experience. Is that something you can factor in as well?
Yeah, and that's probably something, I didn't mention that we do. So we'll bump into the course, they'll go down, have a walk around, debrief boats, etc. Typically then do some activation type stuff as part of it, but it's familiarisation, getting a feel for where they're at, getting set up sort of thing, and then they'll have to go back to the hotel, come back and go for a ride. But it's definitely part of the whole thing. We'll do that as a team as well. We're pretty much at that point in time where the national team, and we do things as much as possible as a team.
Probably more appropriate for the younger ones, but you let them go, no coaches around.
On the water?
No, if they're going for a
Oh,
walk.
if you're walking harvest, go harvest, Just try and corral them back at a certain time.
Herding cats.
Exactly. Lose track of time very quickly.
If they're jumping out of their skin, you're quite likely to have
XY chromosomes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and that's the other part. Trying to encourage them to explore, but knowing that they've now suddenly got these beings of life.
huge amounts of energy.
Exactly.
Start filled away.
Yeah.
Having fights.
Turn off
fights.
That's rugby league players in this way.
I was going to say, is this where Jason's social media exploits come from?
You're not talking nasty balls, are you?
Of course I am.
Whatever it takes, Sarah.
Whatever it takes.
So happy to take anything,
Sorry.
That's right.
If you're doing your 500s in your week prior, and are you asking them if they're hitting well under, as in like faster than prog speed, and you reckon, okay, maybe it's going a little bit too hard, like you're doing overspeed work, are you telling them to back off? If you're doing 5 or 6 or whatever, 500?
No, if they feel like they're going okay and they're not cooking it, no.
Okay.
Go for it.
So you're looking at RPE there, or?
No, I'll just track the mini-max afterwards.
Okay.
But at that point in time, let's go out and put down.
Sure.
What is Los Angeles going to do to this noting it's 1500 metres?
This is where my course comes into play.
Yeah, so it is, obviously, as you know, the one race in the whole cycle, it's 1500. So the qualification we gather 4 or 5 weeks out is 2K. So we've done a lot of work around pacing strategies and training programming for that particular scenario. So we've got a lot of intel at the moment and a lot of thinking going into what that could look like, but it is a unique situation because literally the one we gather in a lifetime that's that race.
Surely,
We can't even blame Donald for that.
surely bigger people would move the boat faster over that 1500 metres.
So it's about 4% more power required, we think, at this point in time to race 1500. So, but that's a bigger discussion in itself. We need more physicality, more strength, more power, full stop, let alone for that scenario. So that's something we've been driving really hard to get our ergo standards down, etc. In space of getting stronger, bigger bodies involved. So, yeah.
All good.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
I've been saying this is my cycle.
Well,
Oh, yeah, just to take it back to the taper.
Yeah.
LA Q&A is always just about monitoring. So like you obviously ended that taper kind of like a week out, and you kind of showed that broad, like 6 weeks out from racing. So how are you kind of monitoring the pre-races that they're doing, like the heat, the reps, the semis, and stuff like that throughout the week? And are you kind of like taking a bit of a view, like you look at all their races and then look at what they did last week and comparing the load to what they did there to see if they're on track?
Do you mean from a load point of view or an actual racing philosophy?
Well, more to like to do with the taper. So like, how do you kind of mix those additional 2Ks into what your taper looks like?
Yeah. So that's a bit of the unknown because you don't know how many races you're going to have. So that's where sometimes you actually need to do some more race work within that week ourselves if you've had a great heat. We try and make sure that we hit the heat really hard and set the regatta up really well. So you don't want to be on the back foot for a number of reasons, whether conditions change, they start seeding or whatever else. But we also don't expect that to be your number one race of the regatta. But we really do put a lot of emphasis on stroke one, day one, here we go. And it generates a lot of momentum. So we've had basically every crew win heats, basically no one running reps, winning semis, just because of the focus we put on it. But then still understanding that that's race one, there's got to be a race two semi-final, which is step up, but then importantly, a final, which is the ultimate end of the week. So it's managing expectations, but not underselling ourselves either. And then adding load in if we need to at that point in time from an intensity point of view.
And what would prompt you to add in load or remove a train, like a morning row, or like pre-race row kind of thing?
Removing it would be from a recovery conversation point of view, and sometimes I'll get down to the course in the morning and I can see what's happening. I'll call the coach and go, "Are you seeing what's happening here?" I go, "Yeah, wasn't sure." All right, back on the bus, go home. Adding in would be if there's more than 2 days of no intensity. So the worst thing you can do is have, before, a heat on a Monday and then nothing until Friday, and then you've just lost your way, and that's a recipe for disaster. So we would then program in Wednesday quite a hard, long intensity session, and then another shorter, high intensity session either the next day or Friday, depending on where the final then sat. But importantly, there would be some real structure workouts that we then fall back to if there's more than 2 days gap in racing.
Okay, I just have one follow-up as well. So it's like, for example, like for our purposes, this is nationals, that we're really considering. So for example, most of our main races are kind of Saturday, Sunday. But if it was, for example, the Sunday, for the juniors, you kind of recommend 5 days out, kind of beginning that heavy taper. So what does that look like? Kind of training until like the Tuesday, Wednesday, and then
so at a long regatta like that, you'd probably start. So let's say if we're starting on the Monday, the final is on let's say Saturday. You're going to get a pretty good taper in that period anyway. But I'd probably go
just
following
heats and stuff.
the following Wednesday to Thursday. I'd start to pull volume out. And probably have a bit more longer ones, so probably a 10-day sort of taper it because you've got a 5-day regatta in there. So that sort of takes care of that taper part, but you need to get them ready for the heat as well without over preparing as well. So start to slowly pull out 5 days prior to racing starting, and then the regatta sort of takes care of the taper itself.
Okay, so it's kind of like over 2 weeks out, pull out all the threshold S&C stuff, and then 10 days out, you're kind of starting to pull out a lot of the volume, and then 5 days out, you're really just focusing on like the mental stuff of like
that's right,
getting through what you need to get through, rolling into. Okay.
the challenge always is we had this at Worlds last year where racing was cancelled for a day because the wind was out of control. The course was locked down, so before we got to that point, we madly drive into the buses, get our ergos out, back at the hotel, lock a room down, and try and get 85 athletes through 12 ergos in a day. It was, but we had to keep them training, we had to keep some intensity in, and there was no other facilities around that we could utilise. So, yeah, literally, we had 12 ergos that we hired. We were chucking in vans and locking in a room that was pretty small and smelly, and but yeah, the team of 85 was quite challenging to get them all through. But it was a long day of ergo use.
Well, on behalf of.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Thanks for that, Jace.
Pleasure.
Yep.
And yeah, if there's anything else at any particular point in time that's have to be about this, then please reach out. I'm always happy to fill you in where I can. I might not get back to you straight away, but I will.
Excellent. Looks
Thanks,
like
Jace.
science too.
It's very much so. That's the art and science. So
Yes.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right.
Jace.
Thanks,
Cheers.
Jace.
I'll see you on Sunday.